Good morning, everybody. Hello, I'm Amit Shrivastava. I'm project lead of Costa PSM. So I've been working with Mentor for more than 10 years now, and I also participate in the IEEE 1801 UPF working group. So I'll be presenting you a paper on PA APIs, which is looking beyond power intent specification formats. So basically this paper talks about an information model and basically an APIs to query information from that information model. So as you know that power management information is present throughout the design flow, and it affects the design functionality at every stages. And often designers and even tools require access to power management information. But because power management information is coming from different sources, like there is a UPF file capturing the power intent, there is a HDL design, and there are libraries containing power management information. So combining all that information and providing a single access is a tricky aspect. And the UPF basically has some mechanisms to provide you access, but it is not complete and comprehensive. As a result, it is not really used in the heavily in the market. So basically, before we start, why do we need access to power management information? Power management information is not just required by the tools, it is also required by the designers and verification engineers, because it affects the functionality. And designers or verification engineers might want to have access to power management information so that they can do design intent exploration, they can generate reports about the power management architecture. They would like to basically use the information and maybe do some static checking over it, checking whether the specific cells that they are looking for is present, and how many cells are there in the design. So, and also you could basically generate a more sophisticated environment to automatically generate assertions and checkers related to power management, which you can run through the design. So there are various ways you'll require power management information. So, but the problem is that since the information is present coming from different sources like UPF file, a library, or HDL, there's no single place you can get access to all the information. Even if you look at the UPF file is more designed to provide ease of use to the user so that they can specify the intent in a minimal amount of code and leave all the automation to the tools. So it's more like a script. So just inspecting the UPF file is not even sufficient. So what you require is some other mechanism, or the APIs or query mechanisms to access the information. And UPF does have some query commands that it provides in the LRM, but it is not properly defined. Like there is no underlying information model which is basically well defined and provides a structured usage. So in that case, it is not really useful, and often tools are forced to provide the custom implementation and proprietary extensions to provide access to that information. So that is why what we really need is a information model which captures the whole structure of the power management architecture over the design, and simple APIs to query that information. So if you look at this diagram below here, this shows the flow of the power management information. So we have at the very initial stage, there is a UPF plus HDL, which is the raw input that goes to some tools, and the tool processes that information, and this is what they have inside them. There is a design plus power management information. So, but what is missing is the actual model that represents both the information in a structured way. So that is where this paper talks about the model which captures the details, and the API which provides access to the information. So what is this information model? Basically, the information model is composed of two major components, which is objects and the attributes. Objects are basically the primary holders of the information, and attributes are the pieces of information present on those objects. So these objects are categorized into three broad classes representing the UPF, HDL, and relationship classes. The UPF objects represent all the objects coming from the UPF, which is like power domain, supply sets, and so on. So basically they capture the result of the application of the UPF. So it's basically whatever has been applied on the design will become and created by the UPF will become part of the information model as UPF objects. So here, another thing to note is that this really captures the result of application of UPF. So it can basically capture information coming from different UPF versions as well, and even different power formats as well, because it captures the result of the power intent. And then there is a class called HDL objects. So this is basically represents all the objects that are coming from the HDL. And as you know that UPF in itself is insufficient to capture the power management. They require HDL knowledge and HDL hierarchy to represent the power management as well. So this is what it does. It represents a skeletal information, not the complete HDL hierarchy, but just the skeleton, which contains basic hierarchy structure and name. The idea is to just provide a minimal information so that the power management information is complete, and that is what it does. And if you require like more details about the HDL information, you can there are query API functions which provide you access to the full hierarchical path, which you can use and use VPI or VHPI to get handled to the HDL. And then there is a third class of objects called relationship objects. So these are basically objects that capture the relationship between various objects in the information model. And these capture some unique relationships which are possible with, which are actually required in the power management representation. And then there is power aware APIs, which is an interface to access the information model. And basically these APIs can be constructed in different interfaces, whether it is C, TCL or HDL interfaces. So what we talk about here is we will talk about two such languages like C and TCL and define APIs in them. And it can easily be extended to other HDLs as well. So at this moment we provide API access which is read-only to the information model. However, we are still working on providing some write access as well, which provides a capability to create more sophisticated test benches. So this work is still a work in progress. So we only talk about the basic read-only access in this paper. So let's look at some of the C API that we have. Like there are a bunch of APIs, a small set of APIs which query the information model in a way like it queries all the different attributes which are possible, what kinds of attributes are possible, and some basic functions to allow our traversal over some iterator to traverse over the list and all. And so using this simple set of APIs, we can I'll show in an example later on that how we can use this set of APIs and query all kinds of information related to power management. And let's look at TCL APIs. So similarly, like corresponding to all the APIs in C, we have TCL commands basically. And they also provide the similar access like querying attributes present on the different objects and some dedicated APIs to query the hierarchical path and checking whether the object belongs to a specific class or not. So let's look at sample design, an example demonstrating how we can query PA information using these APIs. So in this example, like we are showing 3 levels of hierarchy, HDL hierarchy with sub as the top and P1 and P2 being instantiated inside sub. And inside P1 and P2 there is M1, M2 and M1, M2 instances. In an example in UPF, what we have shown is like we have used 3 power domains which partitions this design into 3 regions. PD sub being the topmost power domain, PD proc includes P1 and P2 instances, and similarly PD mem includes all the M instances. Here in this example, I've used an isolation strategy to insert an isolation cell, which is shown here. And once this is processed by the tool and the tool has applied all the power management information, what you get is an object diagram. This is a UML object diagram which shows an instance of an information model. In this case, all the boxes in green show the HDL objects. The boxes in yellow show the UPF objects, and boxes in blue show the relationship objects. So here, let's take an example to print the isolation information present on, which is present in the information model. So if you look at this code here, it tries to get handle to the power domain, which is called PDProc, and iterates over all the isolation strategies. So here it gets a handle of this. On this object there is a list of isolation strategies, which in this case is just a single isolation strategy. So this is what it represents. And once you get a handle to that, now you can use the other API functions to access specific information. Like for example here it prints the name of the isolation strategy, which is shown here as a comment, and then it tries to find out the clamp value, which is shown here. And similarly, like you can get access to all the information related to an isolation strategy. So this demonstrates a C interface. Now let's look at a Tcl interface, how it looks like in Tcl language. It is very similar. Of course, there are some syntactical changes which are there in Tcl, but the concept is similar. Like you get a handle to an object, use the functions to query information, and then what you can do, use it recursively wherever you want. So in this case, this particular example shows basically allows you to get a list of all the isolation cells present in the design, starting at a given scope. So here this get iso cells is a Tcl proc. Inside this it first uses asyn class API to check whether you are being passed a right class of objects or not. And then it gets the list of all the child scopes. It tries to get access to the cell information, which is like, if you look at here, it gets a handle to this. It gets information about the cell, which is this, and checks whether this cell is an isolation cell or not. So it checks whether this is an isolation cell or not. If it is an isolation cell, then it puts it into a list and returns it. And this goes on recursively throughout the hierarchy, starting from a given scope. So this is how you can basically use the APIs and do more sophisticated things like traversing the hierarchy, generating checkers, doing assertion models, and or even generating a report like we try to do it in the C. So this is what PA information model does, and it provides more sophisticated access. And this work has also been donated to the IEEE working group, and the working group has formed a subcommittee which is working towards the standardization process. And hopefully, like with 3.0, we will see this information model being included in the standard. Thank you.